Monday, November 3rd. I'm Jim Check. With me Ian Burns, our managing editor out there in the nation's capital. Beautiful overcast fall day here in the Okanagan. And in the nation's capital, I'm sure it is cloudy with a chance of meatballs, or what's it looking like out there?
That's an accurate description, yeah.
Or the meatballs show up tomorrow. Oh, we got some headlines.
They're all getting ready for that.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of meatballs tomorrow. Carney apologizes to Trump. Team Canada does not exist. Carney press conference highlights so many things that are wrong here in Canada. It's just amazing. Canada and China are climate defenders, one and the same. Pierre talks to Rosie. Boomers still back Carney. Canadian media bias being called out. Canada's biggest tax dodgers in committee there. More capital flee from Canada. Hodgson touts critical minerals, but it pales in comparison. What is really important? Are the Americans about to embark on another crusade? Or I guess it'd be their first crusade. The Bank of Canada needs to cut. And Newsom finds out he hates himself. What a realization that one is, eh? And we also got, we didn't put it in the headlines here, but we found out who's been dating Justin Trudeau and who's been dating Katy Perry. That's all at the end here. That's an interesting one for sure. Justin gets around. All that and a lot more on the really big show here on November 3rd, the day before the budget and the day before possibly a new election in Canada. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't been to Polymarket, so I imagine there's a bet on that. But I'd bet that the NDP supports this budget. But hey.
Yeah, the most likely outcome is one, because the NDP is so fractured, they don't have a leader. They've just got an interim leader. So the most plausible scenario that I can see is some of their MPs vote for it, because they only need a few. They only need a few extra votes. So a few of them do it, and then there's just a kind of, the explanation is, oh, well, we don't actually have a party yet. Or we're not really, we're not like the classic NDP. We're in this period of transition, guys. And that'll be the explanation.
Plausible deniability.
But I think obviously as well, seeing that the ground has been laid, the territory has been mapped, hasn't it, in the last week or so, where all this talk about Christmas election and how much money it's going to cost, how nobody wants it, how anybody that resists this budget or questions this budget is a Grinch. That's what the language is going to be, and that'll be the justification as well. A lot of people, I think, or whoever it is that votes, let's say it's like a handful, I would say most of them are going to come out and say, we did this because we wanted to avert an election, because that would have been a tragedy. Democracy is a tragedy.
Well, the press conference that Mark Carney had on Saturday there, I mean, it highlighted so many things that are wrong with Canada. It was so revealing in so many regards. But we're going to play a small clip of it here. Let's play this clip first.
Mackenzie Gray with Global News. Did you apologize to Donald Trump about Ontario's anti-tariff ad?
I did. I did apologize to the president. The president was offended by the act, or by the ad, rather. And it's not something I would have done, which is to put in place that advertisement. And so I apologize to him. En français, oui, j'ai fait mes excuses pour l'avertissement de l'Ontario.
That's fine. I mean, the Liberals were asked, I think, 7 times in question period. Wouldn't answer the question. Media even accused Donald Trump of lying, saying, when Trump said that Carney apologized, they said that he exaggerated. He always exaggerates, and he's lying. Turns out Mark Carney did apologize. And he also says later in the clip that he told Doug Ford not to run the ad. So that really...
Yeah, which is... continues that sort of scrap that's developing. He's thrown one back, hasn't he, to Dougie? And then I guess sometime this week we'll see Doug come out and throw another one. And it's just going to go on and on. These best of pals.
But this press conference is worth watching in full. I think it was about 34 minutes. We're not going to play the whole thing. We're going to play some bits and scraps of it here. But one of the things that was really revealing to me is in that room, in those press conferences, instead of pressing on some of these things, he was let off so many times, because in the questioning was like CBC, Radio Canada, Globe and Mail, CBC, CBC, New York Times for some strange reason.
New York Times got in there.
That's it. No independent media, nobody else that would press on this. No journalists that would actually press on anything. And it was just, it is so revealing how they control who gets in the room to ask even the questions.
And they chuckle along with Mark Carney. This was a perfect example of that kind of bonhomie that prevails between Carney and the journalists. There was a lot of, it was almost like flirtatious.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that going on. And this was at a time that Carney was making extraordinary admissions, but also just the most obvious thing of all, which is that he is nothing like the Prime Minister that he said he was going to be. This is not Mark Carney from the campaign. This is a different man. But for some reason, all of these journalists, the ones who are invited into the press conferences, have forgotten that, or they haven't realised that. I mean, it's incumbent upon them to say again and again and again and again, why is it that you got elected on being the tough guy and the one that was going to go into the ring with Donald Trump, and now you've got an orange tongue? What happened?
But there were so many things that were revealed in this thing. One is, like you just said, on bended knee, which he talks tough, but the reality is every time we've seen him with Trump, including this now, he's actually a completely different person. No pressing questions on Donald Trump. You were actually in his wake the whole time. Donald Trump came home, according to him and his people, with $2 trillion of signed deals. You came home with nothing other than a couple of guest books that you signed and promises to start trade negotiations. 7 months. Why are you just starting trade negotiations? And one of the deals that was signed was the South Koreans for LNG that they actually literally begged us for 2 years ago. No pressing on that. And then says that he called China the biggest threat to Canada. And now all of a sudden, Canada and China we're going to talk about it later, are climate defenders, and we got lots in common with them. There was so many things in here that if there was actual, like if you even got some people from the BBC or some of the American journalists in there, there's no way Mark Carney survives that press conference. But in this one, it was Toronto Blue Jays are going to do this, that, and another thing. And we're going to play some of these clips. But Team Canada, the other big one. You talk about Team Canada, you pitch Team Canada, you can't even control your premiers. If you told Doug Ford no, why did he still run the ad? And David Eby says he's still going to run the ad. We got this little clip here from CTV on Team Canada.
Pitched by federal and provincial leaders could be breaking down. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has more on the revelations of a disagreement over whether to run that anti-tariff ad that ultimately ended trade talks with the U.S.
Speaking to reporters in Asia for the last time before returning to Ottawa, the first questions Prime Minister Mark Carney faced were about his conversation with Ontario Premier Doug Ford about this anti-tariff ad that has halted trade negotiations with the U.S.
Since you're the person that's solely responsible for negotiations, did you inform Mr. Ford that this is something that you did not want to go forward with?
Yes.
And what came of that?
Well, you saw what came of it.
The Premier has previously defended running the ad, calling it a success. But Ford's office did not respond to a request for comment today.
Does this show that there is division within Team Canada, that the premiers don't trust you to negotiate?
I think there is, the individuals can speak for themselves, and, they're practiced in speaking to themselves, and they will speak for themselves. There are other premiers who have different view in terms of the utility of those ads.
It's clear that these ads are working.
Manitoba's Wab Canoe supported Premier Ford's ad in a social media video, while BC's David Eby says he plans to go ahead with his own anti-tariff ad expected to run this month.
Who's in charge is the question, fundamentally.
Scott Reid, CTV News political commentator and former advisor to Prime Minister Paul Martin, believes there is tension between the different levels of government that should be resolved.
And there very well could be a problem, because you now have premiers saying, we're going to take steps that clearly, demonstrably, can have a measurable impact on Canada-U.S. relations.
But the premiers and the people in their provinces have different priorities. A new Nanos research survey for CTV News shows Canadians are split on how to prioritize support for industries impacted by U.S. tariffs. Agriculture ranked the highest. The auto sector was a close second, with softwood lumber, then aluminum rounding out the list.
That's good. That's good. I have no idea where Team Canada is and all this. I mean, that question should have been back. The reporter should have said, but your leadership, you said you promised us Team Canada. There's nothing but fractures, nothing but fractures. And how can you have one voice representing Canada if everybody is going off and doing their own thing?
But it wasn't just Mark Carney. If we look at the two naughty boys that were highlighted there, Doug Ford and David Eby, cast your mind back several months, they were going non-stop about Team Canada and how they were going to do everything necessary. And I think they even used, like Eby, I seem to recall, said something like, I'm a Canadian first. And they kept saying, language like that was being used again and again and again. But then when it started to be about themselves and their own reputations and their own survival, I guess, that was just hurled out of the window, wasn't it? And that is kind of, fundamentally, it's the primary weakness of Canada, which a question that we've asked many times, is Canada truly a country in the same way that the United States is a country, or France is a country, or whatever else? And that's a difficult question to answer. It's strangely enough, I think it's more like Russia, not just geographically, we've made that comparison before, but also just the nature of the strength of these individual units, like sub-national units. They're so powerful. Obviously, Russia's kind of solved that by getting themselves in with a tyrant. We haven't done that, and I'm not saying we should do that, but I mean, as a consequence, sometimes it really doesn't work, does it?
One of the other things that really is highlighted there is Chrystia Freeland accused the Liberals of wasting 10 years on virtue signaling and identity politics. But that's all we see, though. When we look at Wab Canoe there pretending to be in the old Ronald Reagan TV ad, it's all virtue signaling. David Eby, Doug Ford. The only person that actually has a level head in his negotiations is Danielle Smith, that speaks with authenticity and truth, whereas the rest of these things are all just like ploys and nonsense. And in Mark Carney's speech there, when it felt like he was getting a little bit of heat, what does he do? He brings out the old piece of red meat and throws Pierre Poilievre under the bus for his security clearance. The old piece of raw meat that has long been debunked even by CBC, but he threw it out there anyway. Shameful. Let's listen in on Pierre Poilievre and see what he has to say, though.
For the Prime Minister to apologize to Trump for the Ontario ad? And if not, what would you have done in that scenario?
Well, first of all, I would have provided this strong leadership so that provinces did not have to all run off in their own direction. Now, we don't see a variety of different governors in the U.S. being forced to run ads in Canada or do their own diplomacy. We see that because Mark Carney has been weak, indecisive, he has no plan, and he's broken all of his promises. So the provinces have been left with no choice but to fill the void that Carney's weak leadership has left behind. And then Mr. Carney has been very duplicitous. He approved the ad, and then he condemned the ad.
I mean, he must have approved it, because if he really wanted to stop it, he could have stopped it.
Of course, and they are such happy bedfellows that you would think that he has sufficient pull with Doug Ford to say, look, mate, please don't do this. Obviously, that isn't what happened, is it? I think it is rather duplicitous of Carney to say that. But I would just point out for Pierre Poilievre, he's acting there like, he's whiter than white, got very shiny, clean, and fragrant hands. But his strategy has also been exposed, hasn't it? He wanted really hard counter tariffs. What happened to that? What happened to that, Poilievre? Should we still implement counter tariffs? Haven't heard him say that in a while. It's like, let's be honest with ourselves. It's the entire Canadian political class that's failing here. It's not just the political class with power, which is the Liberal Party. But I feel like, unusually for Pierre Poilievre, because usually he's such an astute opposition leader, I think he's just completely fluffed his lines with the Trump situation. And increasingly, I hate to say it, I just feel like people aren't even listening to him anymore. He's just kind of like he's in the periphery now.
I almost think that if Canada is to be taken seriously and we're going to get capital investment back in Canada, we need a clean slate. Like we need, especially the NDP and the Liberals need to go to an Arctic winter, and then perhaps even the Conservatives need to really take a hard look at what they're doing, because this country needs leadership in the worst way. And right now we look very, very weak, no matter how you look at it. And that's why capital's fleeing, and we're going to talk about it a lot more as we go on here. And then just the outright gaslighting, lying, half-truths or whatever. Listen to this one here on China. Remember, Mark Carney, when asked in the leadership, what's the biggest threat to Canada? He said it was China. Now listen to this.
Dernière question.
Ian Austin from the New York Times. You described your meeting with President Xi as a turning point in relations with China. What changed to make that happen, and what needs to happen now to make sure that forward momentum continues and things don't reverse again?
I think we both described it as such. First point. I think at its core, it is about the way we treat each other, interact with each other. What we were saying earlier, this sort of pragmatic engagement. Where can we engage? Where are we not going to engage? Where do we agree? Where can we build? Where do we disagree? And we're not. And being clear about that. And there may be some bumps along the way when there's some ambiguity, but ironing those out as quickly as possible. And then there is, because there are a lot of areas where cooperation makes sense. Look, I'll give you an example. We are two countries that care about climate change and care about global solutions to climate change. Right there's an enormous area for cooperation. We are two countries, at least Canada traditionally has been a country who understands the international monetary and financial system and the changes in the international monetary and financial system, understand the importance of financial stability, the issues with transition and other aspects. This is an issue when you're the rising economic power. So there's another area of engagement there. So there's a host of places where there is an alignment of issue above and beyond the direct commercial ties.
What was that? Whoa, literally.
Indeed. Not silver-tongued. His best friends might say silver-tongued, but he's shown once again his orange tongue, or red tongue maybe in that case. But he also went on as well. He was asked, I don't know if it was the same answer.
Just hang on one second. Can you put up the chart there? Just put up the chart where Ian keeps going though. Okay, keep going. Yeah.
He was asked what he'd achieved, basically. Like what had actually. I think he was asked about the tariffs. That was it. He was saying, have you got any progress on the tariffs? Canola, all the rest of it? And he was just so, he seemed so defeated. He seemed like such a loser. I'm sorry to say it, Monsieur Carney. He just sounded so pitiable because he was just saying, oh, that's going to take a very long time and we're not there yet. We haven't made progress yet. He was like saying, you don't just do that out of nowhere. It takes many, many meetings. And I was thinking hold on, mate, just a couple of days ago, Donald Trump had one of these meetings, came out of it and had a new trade arrangement with China. Evidently it is possible. Obviously the US is an exceptional country in many ways, but still it's possible. He was making it seem as if it was that's just the way it is. It's just a fact of life. You don't just have a meeting with China and come away with changes to your trade policy. Well, actually some countries do.
So what really happens is all the people underneath you are making these deals ahead of time, and then when you show up, you sign the paperwork. That's what Trump does. His team is there making the deals ahead of time, months ahead of time, making the deals, and then you show up like you're the hero and you sign a deal. But all the groundwork is laid. I mean, Trump lays that out. Even these peace deals, Rubio and all these other guys are out there laying out the groundwork. Trump shows up for the signing. He's not negotiating these things. 7 months, nothing. And then we talk about I have one more point, though, to make on this. I advise every Canadian to take a couple of shots of common sense, just take a couple of big swigs of common sense and go watch that full press conference and see if you don't feel like pulling out all your hair because of all the gaslighting, all the half-truths, all the answers that mean nothing, and especially this climate change one. Here's the proof right here on climate change. Canada and China care about climate change. What does that chart show you right there? The burgundy one is coal, by the way. That's China.
It should be black. They love the black stuff.
So.
And the blue one is oil. So look at it as it grows. I mean, this is because China, in many ways, where this begins here. If you go back to sort of Mao died, what was it, 1978, something like that? What, 76? Around about that time, sometime in the 70s. And that's when China basically began to industrialize properly after that, when you started to get Deng Xiaoping came in and they had reforms. So that answers quite a lot of that. Because under Mao, the country was a basket case. Mao was a complete fool, and he ran the country foolishly. So when they started to run it properly, it explodes in growth. But the thing is, you hear a lot about per capita, and it's like, that's why Canada's very naughty, apparently, because even though Canada contributes nothing really in the grand scheme, per capita it's a lot. But China's responsible for about a third of all global emissions. They don't have a third of the world's population. So even China is, it's overshot its per capita allowance, if you want to look at it that way. So, yeah, I mean, obviously China's no friend to the global climate, to summarize.
Or democracy, or a bunch of different things. Do you know what I mean? Human rights
Canada,
violations.
let's be honest.
Yeah.
But it is a very big country, and it's an enormous economy. So I understand why. I think it's perfectly reasonable to behave like that to China. I have to say, I don't disagree with Carney's approach at all, or with the Americans either. I think, to an extent, actually, a Canadian leader does have to be quite deferent and submissive and servile in the presence of those two giant beasts. That kind of makes sense, and that is in Canada's interest. What I object to, and what I feel like deserves to be highlighted, is what he said when he was trying to be elected, what he promised. That's how our system works, after all. They promise things to us, and we make a decision whether or not we pick them to lead us. He promised certain things about China and the US, and he has not carried through those promises. So that's the problem.
If this is a Batman movie, Mark Carney is Two-Face, and that's what you just said, and that's the problem I have. And that's what I think everybody sees is when he stands in front of the podium talking to Canadians, it's one thing, and then when he actually is dealing with these people, it's another thing. And there's no deals. That's the big part. 7 months, no deals, nothing of consequence, nothing.
Well, the things of consequence are that it's worse. It's worse with the United States. It's worse with China.
And President Xi
that's where it's gone. It's gone the other side. It's gone the other direction.
Every time he does this climate stuff, he's going to come and pitch this carbon capture thing. And this is what he's setting people up for, because President Xi has said he will not do anything with climate change that hurts the wealth of the Chinese people. Canada, on the other hand, will destroy our whole economy for
it. I mean, it's baffling, isn't it? It's hard to wrap your head around it, especially when, again, you look at this, you still got the picture up there of their energy mix. Look at the growth in use of coal, for God's sake. This is what people. This is like mapped out, visualized when people say that China's building X amount of coal-fired power stations every month or whatever. Several. I can't remember what the statistic is, but they are expanding coal quite dramatically. Like, there it is. Just look at it. The dirtiest fuel that we still use, next to like dung and things like that, which they still use in parts of Africa.
Our producer just mentioned 2 a month, I think, that they're putting into play. So there you go.
Yeah.
We got another clip.
But this is the thing: the Chinese will always prioritize China. They are, after all, nationalists of a kind, at least communist nationalists, and that's what they're doing.
We got another clip here from that conference here, or the press.
Next question.
Hi, Prime Minister. Sarah Ritchie with the Canadian Press. If you cast your mind back to April during the election campaign, I know it feels like a long time ago for me, you told Canadians that China was the biggest security threat to this country and to Canadians. Do you still believe that to be the case?
I think we have to manage all our threats. There are a number of threats from a country mentioned, Russia. We've non-state actor threats, which are material. I guess, one of the advantages of having your security clearance is you're better informed about some of the threats, and I highly recommend that anyone either in the position of responsibility or seeking it has their security clearance.
There you go. You offered them up.
That's the best. That's the best clip. That's the one that just play that over and over again. Really, that should just be the show, because everything in that that just sort of proves all the points that we've basically ever made about the Canadian democratic system, Canadian political system. You've got a journalist there who almost seems like the next words out of her breath are going to be like, so what are you doing later? You know, like, can I get your, or would you like my number? It was like, you know, I know it's been a long time. It feels like, it's like, shut up, shut up. You're supposed to hold this man to account. You are disgracing yourself. And he as well, he gives it back, and he loves to flirt with the journalists all the time. It's like these little glances and winks and things. It's very unprofessional. It's not what Canadians want to see at this time.
Also,
I mean, I think it's atrocious. But then also his answer, it's not just politics. You know, he said China was the biggest threat to Canada. He campaigned on that. He's prime minister because he said that in part, and now he won't. And now he's taking a completely different tune. He won't even answer that question anymore. That subverts our democracy. That is subversive. You know, that is, talk about threats to democracy. That should be top of the list. He's made a mockery of our democracy. And will he be held to account for it? Obviously not. And it's left to us in this obscure corner of the internet to even mention it.
That piece of red meat he threw there, Pierre Poilievre there, the journalist should have replied. That's been debunked already, and it's a non-issue. Yet you continue to use it. Why? It's just ridiculous, right? But like you said,
but also, you know, like, just be honest. You got to at least be an approximation of the person you were when you campaigned, when you're in power. You know, otherwise, what are we doing? Like, what is the system? Again, if this is what we get.
The contrast is Donald Trump, who a lot of Democrats hate. He is who he said he was going to be. Everything he said he's going to do, he's doing. Whether they like it or not.
He's also done a lot of things that he never mentioned. But
yeah, but the stuff he mentioned,
in truth,
that he ran on,
the main thrust of his campaign related to immigration and economic reordering. And he's done both of those things. So I guess in that sense, yeah. But he's also done a hell of a lot of things that just came out of absolutely nowhere. Like pardoned loads of people. He pardoned this Chinese crypto guy and then was asked about it and said, I don't even know who that is. Like, he's done a lot of completely bizarre things. Obviously, this situation with Venezuela, that was never mentioned. Like, you know, obviously Trump has taken the P as well.
His main campaign promises, he's delivering on.
Yeah, the main two, yeah. Whereas Carney's main one was Team Canada, all these infrastructure projects.
Strongest economy in the G7, strongest economy in the G7.
And create and sign all these new trade deals with other partners, yeah. But he can kind of say, oh, no, like, that's going to take many years. Like, get back in your box. But you could have said that about Trump. Like, Trump's got illegal immigration dramatically down, like almost zero.
Like he said, zero.
And well, he says that, yeah. But you could easily, in Trump's position, you could easily have said, oh no, like a problem like this, it's going to take me years. It's going to take me 4 years to fix this. Like, obviously, Trump is kind of, in that sense, makes him look a little bit ineffective, doesn't he?
So CBC getting a lot of heat for not having conservatives on the show. So Rosie Barton, the chief misinformation officer at CBC, had Pierre Poilievre on. And you tell me if it seems a little biased. Just listen in on this clip here.
It seems like everywhere Mark Carney goes, with these grand meetings and photo ops, we end up with more tariffs. His failures abroad are costing us at home.
He met with the Chinese president, though, and they made a decision that their officials were going to get together and try and solve the trade irritants. He is trying to make some progress, no? You don't see those things as a bit of progress?
What progress? Can you name one tariff line that he's reduced abroad?
No, not at this stage, no.
Not one. No. He said 7 months.
So what would
He's been on 20 trips.
What would you like to see him do then? What do you think is the missing piece here?
Keep his promise.
Yeah, but how? It's easy to say that. It's the how that's difficult.
Well, the how, I said that I would face President Trump and the rest of the world from a position of strength. Right now, we're in a position of weakness. The Americans know we can't sell our goods to anyone else because we don't have pipelines and LNG plants to get our most valuable export to other markets. I would pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act, which would rapidly greenlight and legalize pipelines, LNG plants, and other infrastructure.
But the government is doing some of that. There's an LNG plant that's happening. There are major projects.
Approved by Stephen Harper.
Well, there's an expansion of it. There's an expansion of it. And the Major Projects Office, it does allow them to get around laws and regulations. You know, that's the goal of it.
That's the goal. We're 7 months in, and the clock is ticking. I think we've been through enough goal setting, and now it's time for results achieved, and we're not getting any results. Mr. Carney won't even tell us if he supports an oil pipeline to the Pacific. His energy minister says it's just too hypothetical. What do you mean hypothetical? We had a project that was approved prior to the Liberals taking office. So here we are with no progress on expanding our resources or getting things done. It's all very good that he's setting up these offices and agencies in Ottawa, but I've got news for him. We're not going to make our economy economically independent by setting up new bureaucracies in Ottawa.
I want to ask you about leadership, because I know that it's probably on your mind. You have a leadership review coming up in January. How confident are you that you will be open?
She actually works for the Liberal Party, or what's going on here?
But again, it's that compare and contrast the deference with which they treat Carney. It's almost like they're talking to His Royal Highness, isn't it? That's kind of the hands-off approach. Yeah, and it's kind of like they're almost just grateful to be in the room. They're grateful for his eye contact, and they're just like, yes, of course, Prime Minister. But when it's just stinky old Pierre, it's just, but how? It's that matters a lot. The tone and the approach and the attitude, and as a journalist who's interviewed many people, you've also interviewed many people. Sometimes you find yourself slipping into that. You do react differently to different people, and you do afford more dignity to certain people. I'm sorry to say, it's just the truth. It's just the reality of being a journalist, or at least your instinct is to do that. And obviously, Rosemary Barton's instinct is to treat Pierre like just some bum off the street that she can just like some loser shadow minister that nobody's ever heard of. That's how she treats him. But with Carney, it's like, yes, my lord, yes. It's just a completely different approach.
What she does admit, though, when he says, what's been done? Nothing.
No, well, but as I'm sure you noticed, she did everything that she could to get out of that very quickly, like a weasel in a sack. She was just like, well, nothing, but what would you do, though? It's kind of like straight away. It was the serve was returned.
The question on Canadians' minds is that we're at the mercy of the Americans on oil. Can we have a pipeline? That's why is the CBC asking that question nonstop? Let's go to the CBC website right now, and then just see Champagne. Listen, this is the headline: Champagne promises a generational budget. Optimistic opposition parties will see reason to support. That's a heck of a headline, right? This is the same budget that PBO's office said shocking, stupefying, unsustainable. But this is a generational
That's a dreadful
budget.
Headline, isn't it? Optimistic opposition parties.
Liberals
What's he doing there? Is he sewing?
Hey,
is he making a new dress?
And this is the pitch right here. Look at the next headline. Liberals need 3 opposition votes to get budget. Who will you be? Who is the hero? Can the federal budget reset Canada's economy? I'll give you the answer. No. What's going on? What's going to be in Carney's first budget? Poilievre won't say if Conservatives will oppose. Carney talks of sacrifice.
There's also another headline. There's another headline that's caught my eye there. A very different subject, but I can't resist. Which is famine declared in 2 more areas in Sudan. Why is that? Sorry, why is that all the way down there? I seem to recall there was another news story about supposed famine in another part of the world. And that was the main story, not just on the CBC's website, but on CBC radio, TV, everything else. What's the difference? What's the difference between famine in Sudan and famine in Gaza, I wonder? Can anybody figure that one out? I'm too stupid to figure that out.
And here's a good one. Russia takes another step forward toward tightening control of the internet. You could easily change that to Canada.
Or the United Kingdom?
Oh, my God. It's like a clown show. Anyway, Canada has what the world wants. Again, this one just This one just, in Southeast Asia, I met with leaders across the globe to build new opportunities. Trump was there as well. Guess what he signed? A deal with South Korea for LNG. Were the South Koreans here a couple of years ago when Mark Carney was economic advisor? And what did we say? No business case for LNG.
But as well, now they talked about some kind of defense pact as well with South Korea. God knows what that'll actually amount to. It seemed very waffly and lots of weasel words. But also a similar one with the Philippines has been announced, that's in the works. I just wonder, like, and I was reading about the kind of analysis, you know, they summon some academic from some university somewhere to talk about it. And they come out and saying, yeah, a lot of these countries like the Philippines and South Korea, obviously their priority alongside the sort of trade and the economy is security. They're feeling very fragile there next to China, which makes these grand imperial claims to like vast stretches of the ocean, right up to the sort of land to the Philippines, like right up to their beaches, basically, and other countries. And they're nervous about that, obviously. So in that situation, if you've got the Americans coming along, you got two options: the Americans and the Canadians, who are in competition with each other now. They're not hand in glove like they have been in the past, but they're rivals now, and they both come to you. Who are you going to do a deal with? Even if the economic side of that deal is a lot worse than what's being offered by Canada, obviously you can go with the Americans. I think you're going to take like carrier strike groups over, you know, whatever Canada has, a few dinghies, the Coast Guard getting lost.
We got some images of that coming up later here. But, you know, Carney, one of his big campaign promises, we have what the world wants. We're going to be a clean, green energy superpower. I can tell you right now, Japan, Germany, and South Korea didn't ask the United States for their carbon capture plan for the LNG. Never came up in the conversation.
They didn't ask for green credentials before putting pen to paper.
But here it is. Here's Laurie Goldstein from the Toronto Sun here put this out. Funding government climate change programs cost every Canadian over $12,000. Could you use the $12,000 right now? Could you, Canadians? Can you use the $12,000? Because I was just at the store and I bought some cheese. A brick of cheese was $30. Steak is like
what kind of cheese? Stilton.
No, just Armstrong cheese, local cheese. And then
terrible.
And steak is a luxury for most people. People stand at the steak counter looking at it like they're looking at a diamond ring that they get from when they get married. They're just staring at it and they just, you know, they want it, but they can't.
Like a dog from an old Disney cartoon or something.
Yeah.
It's like,
and then you go,
no, it's true. And ground beef is the other one. Ground beef is supposed to be like, that's supposed to be like peasant food, isn't it? Ground beef. A lot of people can't afford that either. That's kind of out of reach.
So you move your way down to the hot dog bin there with the mystery meat, and this is your Canada. No deals, nothing, squat, nada. And we're supposed to be.
It's unavoidable. This conversation is unavoidable, and in any other media landscape, it would be bang in the center of the conversation. Would be the sort of ambition to reach net zero and all of the punishments that are put in place and the taxes that are put in place in an effort to bring down emissions for basically no reason whatsoever from a global perspective.
Did we put that CBC website up yet? Show you where they're talking for Canadians? Did we show people where they have all this stuff where Canadians are hurting? Or did we just have pumping the budget that's about to come out? Oh yeah, there you go. Champagne promises that generational budget. They should have put, PBO's office says budget, shocking, stupefying, unsustainable. And then the immigration thing. And then finally, in committee hearings, this is, did immigration hurt our healthcare system? Here's some committee hearings and some doctors. Listen to what they have to say.
Impacting Canada's healthcare system.
As I stated in my statements, the immigration levels are directly impacting particularly urban centers, especially where I work. So it is directly increasing wait times, number of visits per day, even though the number of physicians and nursing staff that we have in order to meet these demands are not increasing.
Dr. Rayo, the federal health minister recently said there's no alignment between immigration and the need for doctors. Should immigration levels be tied to healthcare capacity to ensure our system can adequately support both Canadians and newcomers?
Absolutely.
And Dr. Rayo again, what portion of your current billings are for refugee claimants?
I would estimate around 15%.
15, like 1
15, 1-5.
Okay. Have you seen this number rise over the past decade?
I couldn't give you a number personally for over the past decade, but it has certainly increased over the last 2 to 3 years since I've been in practice.
That's good. You get the idea. Remember, they told us that immigration had no effect on healthcare.
Or housing, or the job market, or anything.
You asked, and if you dare ask, you were a racist.
Well, foolproof argument. I mean, Aristotle would be proud of that, wouldn't he?
So
Geniuses that came up with that one.
Here's this big revelation again. A doctor in committee hearing. Where is that? Let's go back to the CBC website. I'm sure it's a story there. I'm sure.
Yeah, just keep looking. It'll definitely be there.
I'm sure we missed it. Did you have it? Yeah, it's there somewhere, isn't it?
Maybe Rosie Barton, like she's been tweeting about it. Maybe. Yeah, I know that they're really interested in this kind of thing.
Yeah, no, they must have missed it. They must be coming later today. Let's see about the other.
Yeah, give them a chance. They're not that well staffed.
$1.55 billion of your taxpayer dollars. That's all they have right now to work with.
I'm sorry, but there's just not enough.
Well, Rosemary got new glasses. Here's a new Abacus poll. Shows Pierre and the Conservatives leading in all age groups except the boomers. What is going on with the boomers? Like what? Like, turn the television off. Turn it off. Turn off CBC.
I mean, yeah, it's what everybody already knew in their heart.
You're eating.
Here it is, born out in a poll.
You're eating poison pablum. And there you go. There's the map of what it's supposed to look like. But then if we talk about another poll, more than half of Canadians think the number of immigrants coming to Canada has a negative impact on housing, healthcare, traffic, and social services. Really? But the Liberals, if you dare, Mark Miller, remember, he even accused a journalist of being a racist for daring to even ask the question. Just for daring
to ask the question. 51% of the Canadian population is racist then, by that.
Well, according to
by that measure.
Anybody that disagreed him was misogynist, racist, homophobic. What were the other ists he had? He had a list of them, didn't he, that he would run all the time?
Yeah. Denialist. That's a new one. That's colonialist. That's a very popular one, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
this is remarkable though. This one here, the top one there, which is like areas that. So in red, it's areas that have been affected negatively, according to the average Canadian citizen. Availability of housing at the top there. Isn't it remarkable? And this happens again and again and again, that the mass of the people get things right that the expert class get wrong. You know, how many times now have we seen this
happen? They get it wrong?
And yet we're still being told, we're still getting top-down moral instruction from self-described experts when they just get it wrong over and over and over again. And the mass of the people get it right. This is going to mention 1984 again, the George Orwell novel. That's like the central thesis of that novel, or one of the central sort of themes of that novel, is that the average people, Orwell calls them proles in that novel, get things right that the experts, the bourgeoisie or whatever, always get wrong. This is such an old idea, it's an old phenomenon, and yet here it is. We're living through it. We're living through an era where the people with the most credentials and the most prestige and power get things wrong and can't see things that average people in the street saw many years ago.
But if you put in the Liberal main chief policy, their mission statement, policies that benefit the few at the expense of the many, everything starts to make sense, because immigration has benefited the few at the expense of the many. The population paid for it, and no access to health care. Less access to healthcare,
but it brought wages down, made it easier to hire more quickly hire and fire, like exchange workers, mess around with your workforce, increased the number of people buying groceries, signing up for mobile and internet and all the rest of it. Great times for all those people.
How much
and
of that Dean at
housing, obviously.
What was that? Contesca? Conestica? That college? How much did he make again? 670 something thousand.
That's another example. Yeah. Joyous times. And it really has. It's been a bonanza for those people. And there are just enough of them, I think, aren't there, to form a coalition. It's quite powerful.
And they scream very loud. Many of them sending emails to us now, too, saying how you and I are just corrupt. But hey, we are a local independent media outlet here in Canada. If you like what we do, please share and help us spread the message. Bill C-18, also a Liberal policy, has censored news outlets across Canada by not giving us access to our biggest audience of 200,000 on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you very much. Brian Lilly here, another one. Media bias is starting to get a lot more attention, though, ever since the CBC CEO sat there in committee hearing and asked the questions. But all of a sudden, media bias is a very real issue, and it will destroy the industry. That's according to some people. Now, we've done so many interviews on this as well, saying it's a threat to democracy and a whole bunch of things. The only reason that Rosie Barton had Poilievre on is because there's a lot of heat when that Travis guy left, resigned, got fired, or whatever happened to him. I don't know if he's still on payroll. He doesn't even understand himself what's going on.
Yeah, he laughs about it, doesn't he?
Anyway, CTV's also in that pile. CTV and CBC, almost the same thing. They're just a reflection of each other. Unbalanced reporting is a threat to democracy. And that was from a CTV article published calling Alberta's choice to use notwithstanding clause getting striking. They are definitely like CTV. I mean, sometimes you have to wonder what their headlines are, like how they write them. And blows you
It's
away.
almost like they're trolling, old-fashioned style trolling.
Yeah.
Like going back to when that term was coined, early days of the internet, when you would intentionally write something that you didn't believe in.
Yeah.
You just wanted to get somebody riled up. It's like sometimes that climate change ones, they're like that, aren't they? Or it's like, I can't even think of what it is, but it's something like, why does chocolate taste bad now? Climate change. It's just like everything, every problem, climate change. I do get a feeling that that's trolling, but I don't know.
We
Maybe
should
not.
Can you send a letter to the State Department, because they will answer us, the State Department, and ask if Japan, Germany, and South Korea asked for the U.S. administration's climate change policy before they signed their bills?
That's a good question.
Anyway, this was put out by Rebel. The daughter of the oligarch who owns the Globe and Mail lost nearly $100 million on crypto trades based on a psychic's recommendation. You gotta love that, right? Why? Why not, eh? And that's Globe and Mail takes millions in taxpayer subsidies, right?
It's just astonishing, isn't it?
I got one for her. This is free. This is free for her. A fool and his money soon part ways.
Yeah.
This is the head of the CBC asked why Albertans don't like CBC. Listen to her response.
I've seen a lot of speeches by Pierre in Alberta, and the biggest applause line by far is when he says, defund the CBC. Why do you think Albertans are so upset at the CBC that it needs to be defunded?
I don't know exactly what the people attending those meetings have in their heart. I've met with Albertans, some of them, obviously not everyone. I've had frank conversations about, what they feel is lacking in our coverage. I've also met people who feel that CBC is absolutely essential. So I think there's a diversity of feelings towards CBC. Can we do better? Always. We can always do better.
Can you? Let's go look at your website right now. We could do better. If you just give us access to your website, we could do better for you. It's you talk to, sure, you should talk to Rachel Notley, and you probably think you're doing the best thing ever. It's narrative. It's absolutely ridiculous. Champagne, that budget, that headline there, it's got to be like the most ludicrous headline yet.
She's not doing well, not performing particularly well, is she, as CBC's newish leader? I mean, she said there's no bias, and just totally rejected that idea. Said there is no bias at the CBC. So that's not just an opinion. Obviously, that's a reflection of how incurious she is. She's just like, there's no bias at the CBC. I'm not going to do anything about that. And then ask now about Alberta. It's like, gee, I don't know. It's like, what do you know? What do you do? What are you good at?
Ian, she barely makes, just over $500,000 a year. You know what I mean? That's just the base salary. So
that's food bank salary, that, isn't it? She'll be down there every night.
What type of caliber person are you expecting for that type of salary?
Pay peanuts, get monkeys, or something like that.
Well, anyway, they're going to be talking about Mark Carney in committee hearings here. The Commons Finance Committee today expected open hearings into the corporate tax avoidance through offshore accounts. And they're expected to dig some dirt on Prime Minister Carney, who benefited from the Bermuda tax shelters as chair of BAM, Brookfield Asset Management. BAM has been identified as Canada's biggest tax dodger. I think it's like numbers thrown around, $6.5 billion. But, as a response to that, it's like, oh, we did stuff that's within the rules. Team Canada. So just think of those tax dollars, if we collected that from this company, how much less tax you'd have to pay. And then maybe we could send, instead of just sending China $109 million, we could send them maybe $218 million to work on their climate change policies. That's what we sent them, $109 million over the years for climate change. They must just be laughing their heads off.
Essential spending.
And then how are government workers supposed to enforce tax rules to take their job seriously when the Prime Minister is involved in tax havens himself? And that's from the MP Hallen. Remember that bike shop that the office for the BAM is in that little bike shop in Bermuda? I think there's another 100 people that share that office space. They really crowd them in there. But
yeah, terrible working conditions.
For the Liberals, there's a two-tier tax code, said Hallen. One is for the rich, like the Prime Minister and his friend, one is for the rest of us. I can introduce you to many Canadians that are feeling the heat. And we did stories on it where the CRA will go after the easy people, where they can just pressure you and do everything and go after, But then when it's talking about this big one here, they said they're not even equipped for it. That it would take years and lawyers and all kinds of stuff because these things have been weaved into these really intricate webs. So what do? They go after the easy stuff. And how does the Canadian taxpayer feel? I mean, we should get some of them on here they can express themselves, because they're just offered up like fodder. Well, people like this, $6.5 billion.
I feel like Mark Carney's missed a trick, though. He's such an admirer of Donald Trump's. He missed a trick by not imitating him or taking a leaf out of his book, because obviously Trump was accused of this. If you could cast your mind back to 2015, 2016, he was accused of using loopholes and tax dodge and all the rest of it. And he said, yeah, I did, absolutely. And they said, if you vote for me, I'll stop it, because I know what they are. I know how it works. I'll fix it. That was important to him being elected. That was like an excellent rejoinder. And I think it gave people, obviously he didn't do that, by the way. I mean, needless to say, he didn't fix the tax code. But he promised that, and that was part of his kind of campaign and his power at that time. Whereas Carney's been questioned about this, and as usual, it's just like verbal diarrhea, and then he walks off the stage. He had an opportunity to say, yeah, Brookfield does dodge taxes, actually, and I've been working in the private sector for X amount of years. I know how it works. I'll fix it. Unlike the rest of these losers that want to be prime minister. That was a real opportunity for him that he just fluffed, I think.
Well, here's another cabinet, and here's another problem. Here's StatsCan here. StatsCan disciplined 72 employees for misconduct last year, including 15 who were fired. And that's according to a first ever disclosure of wrongdoing in the workplace. The agency counted another 21 complaints of harassment, 31 cases of lost or stolen taxpayers' property, mainly cell phones and laptops. Why not, I guess, eh? The report often offers a detailed summary of misconduct and wrongdoing cases over the past year. It highlights key trends and patterns. When we did that story on the CBSA where 25% of the stuff goes missing or is unaccounted for. Like, I mean, like that's a huge problem. That's from the Auditor General. Like, it's just like the notice out there must be just like it's a free for all. Look at what they do at the top. Everybody just grab what you can. There's the trough. Dig in.
Yeah, and probably a feeling of entitlement. I think it's fair to say.
And we did that story just like I think it was last week, where whistleblowers were treated with disdain, called out, and given less desirable tasks. So whistleblowing, you don't want to be doing that.
Don't want to bring down the rest of us. Don't damage the team spirit by complaining.
And then if you have lax workplace things, then I guess suppliers can work it too. So here we go. Another finding in committee hearing is unnamed contractors appear to be gaming the federal system by bidding low on tenders with ambiguous wording. I wonder where they get that ambiguous wording from, to take advantage of revisions at escalating costs. And that's from the procurement ombudsman, Alexander Jelic. He called it bid low and let it grow. Sound like Arrive Cam to you?
It's catchy. That's what it is.
Bid low and let it grow. Who pays? The taxpayer. Why not, right? What's the taxpayer, eh? They got lots.
Yeah.
The Department of Public Works.
Terrible.
The Department of Public Works, lead issuer of contracts for federal departments and agency, awards some $25 billion in work annually. $25 billion annually in the bid low, let it grow. $25 billion.
That is enormous amounts of patronage that are possible, and it's like largesse. It's like in the old days you become king. Not like a Viking king, let's say. You become king and then you start handing out the golden armbands, the arm rings. That's what they used to do. Or like you become king in a coup or something like that. Open up the treasury, give it to your friends. I mean, I'm not calling the Liberal Party Vikings, but still.
The Canadian system is kind of near the bottom tier. Maybe we got Elon Musk up here. Irregularities were a symptom of a broken system. My office has been identifying many of the same issues year after year, report after report. Here's another report. We don't want to look at that. You got to be quiet. The system has not improved during my tenure, said Jelic. I am in year 6, going into year 7. I've done significant volumes of reviews. I'm very confident in saying it is time to replace the car. That's what I said.
Really,
you need to wipe it. You need to wipe it clean. Like this is just rife with corruption. Just rife with corruption, fraud,
and incompetence as well. Yeah.
Just from the top down. And then the NDP. Here you go. So for you, the pleb, for you, this is what you get. There's a bill that's being pushed forward. Canadians face jail for justifying the Indian residential school system under a Commons bill introduced by the New Democrat MP Leah Gazin from Winnipeg. The maximum penalty is needed to end residential school denialism, and they want 2 years for this. And this is Bill C-254.
And, you know, very, very possible that our guest of a couple of weeks ago, Jonathan Kay, would be caught up in this. Because he's been attacked by so many people, even though he clearly has... He's not a denialist or anything like that. Listen to what he said when he was talking to us.
Well, right here at the end here,
looks at it as a very sad episode in history. But because he's a skeptic and doubtful and likes the truth, into jail you go.
Well, right here, here's the sentence right here. Ground penetrating radar often throws up false positives, anomalies that are indicative of anything significant. And that's from Internal Parks Canada emails released through the Access Information. Until there's a further investigation, the site accountants refer to them as possible graves. So there you go. Jonathan would be in trouble.
It's funny that they say this. This is Parks Canada in internal emails. If you just, there's still a website online from the Canadian government that refers to them as the bodies of children or something like that. It's still there. They're all over the shop on this, because obviously it was very embarrassing because Ottawa, the federal government, went very, very, very hard on this. Obviously, lowered the flag for 6 months or whatever it was, and they got a lot of egg on their face, didn't they?
Well, again, if you work for the federal government or you're Mark Carney and you can dodge $6.5 billion, applause for you. If you dare say anything out of line for the rest of you, they got some 3 squares a day. I don't know if you get 3 squares, but let's move on to the economy here. 30 years now, this company, furniture store, says, see ya. Let's play a little clip here.
We live in kind of rural Ontario, and we think of ourselves insulated from the greater world, and suddenly it hits you that you're not.
After more than 3 decades in Lindsay, Holsag Canada, a furniture-making company known for its wooden chairs, is shutting down. Its U.S. parent company, Mighty Inc., says it will move production south of the border. Holsag Canada was a privately owned Canadian company before it was sold to the Utah-based firm in 2017. In a statement, Mighty said the decision reflects both macroeconomic and operational realities, citing the challenges of fluctuating tariffs, shifting trade policies, and rising costs. MPP Laurie Scott called the news devastating in a recent statement, saying,
I mean, this is playing out all over. Again, it's the rising costs, the rising regulation, the rising taxation. We're not helping ourselves. That's all the self-harm we do. Like, compete. For God's sakes, compete. Here's Scott Bessett on rare earths, and this is one of Canada's strengths. But let's listen to what he has to say. You can't be bullish enough on rare earths and critical minerals. But let's listen to what he has to say.
Well, I think it's naive for the Wall Street Journal editorial board, who I call a bunch of grumpy old men, to think that the Chinese weren't going to roll out these rare earth restrictions. They've been putting this plan together for 25, 30 years, and the U.S. has been asleep at the switch. And now this administration, we're going to go at warp speed over the next 1-2 years, and we're going to get out from under this sword that the Chinese have over us, and they have it over the whole world. And this time, we have rallied the allies, and so it is going to be all the Western democracies, the Asian democracies, and India are also going to join us in this, in trying to form our own supply chains. We don't want to decouple from China, but we need to de-risk. They've shown themselves to be an unreliable partner in many areas.
Why are rare earths so important? Let's listen to this next clip. Why are rare earths so important? Let's listen.
Manufacturing this Blackwell chip in Arizona, Jensen, how difficult was that to achieve, to bring such an important chip production here to America?
Well, first of all, AI is an industrial revolution. And this is the most important technology of our time, potentially the most important technology of all time. And when President Trump first took office, he wanted us to manufacture these critical technologies onshore. He wanted to reindustrialize the United States. He wants to have energy growth. He wants to make sure that the United States is a leader in artificial intelligence. And in order to do so, we need to lead in energy. We need to lead in chips. We need to lead in building AI infrastructures and factories, including lead in building AI models, of course, but also using AI in all the different applications in various industries, from healthcare to manufacturing to robotics to, science and industry. So he wanted that in his administration, and he wanted it at the speed of light. And so I told him that we would bring manufacturing back within 9 months, with the partnership of TSMC, which is an incredible partner for the United States, Foxconn, Wistron, Amkor, and Spill. We've been able to manufacture now the most advanced AI chip in the world completely in the United States and Arizona. The workers worked incredibly hard. The mechanical engineers, the electricians, the plumbers, the construction workers, they all worked around the clock. 9 months later, we're now in volume production of the most advanced AI chip in the world.
So the company he's referring to there is Taiwan Semiconductor, and they're starting to build chips in the United States. And this is so important. Again, NVIDIA, its market cap is twice that of Canada's GDP. It's I don't know, I didn't look today. It could be over $4 trillion today, the market cap of this one company. It's so important to the world right now. NVIDIA is, it's up another $7 today. It's at 210. Like, NVIDIA is the most important. But listen to what he said, fast track energy. What have we done in 7 months? This is what he said got done in 9 months. I mean, the solution to the Canadian economy is right next door, just carbon copy. There's some carbon you can use. Carbon copy, not carbon capture, carbon copy what's going on down there. Fast track our stuff. And here's the opportunity for Canada. Listen, and this is something from the Microsoft CEO, Satya here. Listen to what he has to say.
I asked Jensen on this pod if there was any chance over the course of the next 5 years we would have a compute glut. And he said it's virtually non-existent chance in the next 2 to 3 years. And I assume you guys would both agree with Jensen that while we can't see out 5, 6, 7 years, certainly over the course of the next 2 to 3 years for the reasons we just discussed, that it's almost a non-existent chance that you have excess.
Can you turn that volume up?
I mean, I think the cycles of demand and supply in this particular case, you can't really predict, right? I mean, even the point is, what's the secular trend? The secular trend is what Sam said, which is at the end of the day, because quite frankly, the biggest issue we are now having is not a compute glut, but it's a power. And it's sort of the ability to get the builds done fast enough close to power. So
that's it. That's good there. That's the point there. What Satya says, that's the Microsoft CEO. They don't have enough power. They have chips sitting there that they can't put into play because they don't have the power. What does Canada have?
Well, I heard David Eby and Adrian Dix were talking about in their grand announcement about energy, saying that they were going to ration it and they were going to make sure that AI and data centers don't get access to it beyond a certain point. That seems to be the attitude, at least in British Columbia, which is quite one of Canada's many blessed provinces when it comes to energy.
And then if you listen to our AI cabinet minister, Evan Solomon, saying, Canada leads in AI. We have Geoffrey Hinton lives here, and he is claimed to be the godfather of AI. Well, some people have called him the godfather, but he's not making any companies. He's an academic. And we all know that.
And he was also born, raised, and educated in England. And then the other fellow that works in Edmonton, the other kingpin that Evan Solomon mentioned, born, raised, and educated in the United States, and then just moved to Canada. So it's not like you can say, look at Canada's glorious institutions. Look at our schools and universities that produce these superb demigods that bestride the earth. They came from other countries. It's kind of like, I mean, it's a great thing that Canada attracted them. That's the kind of, if you want to point to success, it's that. But Canada didn't invent AI, didn't monetize it, and also they weren't products of Canadian institutions either. So,
yeah, and the biggest point of all is that these academics don't contribute to GDP. They're academics. Like, they talk about how we need to, fix it, put guardrails on it. It's not companies that produce saleable products like OpenAI, NVIDIA. I could go on here. Tesla, Microsoft. An academic standing on a stage is not going to hire 1,000 people or 10,000 people or use products. They're academics, Evan Solomon. They mean nothing.
But the thing is, Mark Carney knows all this. He's got no excuse. He's mentioned it many times about the importance of energy and how Canada's an energy superpower and we're going to fuel the future and all the rest of it. He's clearly well aware of all of this. But we need to see the actual plans, I suppose. Show us the money.
Yeah, we've talked about Microsoft reopening 3 Mile Island. Yeah, they need power. Canada has power. But according to, Tim Hodgson is touting this deal. This is what they're touting. Remember when Mark Carney was still in Southeast Asia there, he was saying, I don't want to get in front of Tim Hodgson, the energy minister. He's gonna announce these huge deals. He's announcing these huge deals. I don't want to get in front of him, although he does get in front of him because he's just, because they're really trying to build this up. And this is the deals that were announced again, it was the G7 meeting here they announced $6.4 billion Canadian in critical minerals projects that were power clean technology. And then here's a chart kind of breaks it down. So it's just under $5 billion Canadian, right? And then $3 billion of that is going for domestic mining, refining, and that's the minerals aren't that rare. It's the refinement of it, and this is Rio Tinto, and they're looking at doing a graphite plant there. But again, $3 billion or $4 or $5 billion in mining is next to nothing. I think today, Coeur d'Alene Mining bought New Gold, which is a Canadian company, bought New Gold for $8 billion. That's what $8 billion gets you. You know what I mean? Like, it's in mining, it's nothing. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the breakdown of this is $2.2 billion in private sector project capital that was already committed of the $6.4 billion. And then $1.6 billion in federal and provincial financing grants alone, more Canadian dollar, taxpayer dollars. And then $2.6 billion from foreign co-investment, offtake, contract valuations, or joint venture capital. So not really much of investment in Canada into the critical minerals, really, at the end of the day. There you go. 2.2 was already committed. And so they got $2.6 billion in foreign co-investment, offtake, contracts. So basically people forward buying product. And then just to show you the difference, just to show you kind of a contrast, this is the Brookfield deal that was done just recently in the United States, like a week or two ago. And it's the irony of it. It's two Canadian firms, Brookfield and Cameco, Saskatchewan, through their joint stake in Westinghouse, driving nuclear revival at the heart of President whatever. 80 billion US, so in Canadian, about 112 billion. So if you're talking about US dollars, under 5 billion Canadian for Tim Hodgson's tout, which is half of it was already pre-committed, versus $80 billion US to build, I think it's 8 large nuclear plants in the United States, fast-tracking them. Do you see the difference?
And even if you look down at the bottom of that paragraph, the Japanese government said it plans to spend up to $100 billion on reactors. So even the Japanese coming in big. Yeah, you certainly can't mess around when your friends and rivals are taking things like this seriously.
And then so here's Canada shows up and they're touting this. They pull some pocket change out and they throw it on the table and says, there you go, here's some scraps for you, table scraps. Here's Cameco's stock chart, by the way. I'm a big believer in uranium, Cameco. Denison also there. Big fan of Denison.
It used to be a point of, I mean, obviously we should mention that Carney and Ford announced those reactors, didn't they, in southern Ontario?
Well, that SMR has been
think.
going on. That SMR in Ontario has been in the works for 10 years.
Yeah, but I guess they gave it a kick up the backside and
it was supposed to be
advanced it.
Prior to Carney, it was supposed to be operational within the next year or two anyway. I mean, they're just basically, again, putting a ribbon on it and pretending that it was theirs. That thing has been slow to go for sure. But SMRs have been slow to go.
Such a shame. I find it such a shame because it's a point of pride for Canada, you know? Talk about godfather of AI and stuff like that. Like, in many ways, Canada is one of the godfathers of civil and nuclear energy, alongside the British, hilariously, who are similarly, or if not even more stupid than the Canadians when it comes to using that technology. But it's just sad. It's one of those things that Canada should be, you know, just like the military. We've had that conversation so many times. It's like something that Canada was just good at, was soldiering, military. That was something that the Canadians were like just well known for, just something they're naturally good at, and somehow blow that advantage and have the military that Canada has now. Sad.
Canada led in SMRs, they're leading in that technology, and I think they likely will be the first in the G7 to put one into place. But Russia has quite a few of them floating around out there, I guess. China.
Also the can-dos back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, so Russia has a floating nuclear power plant. There you go. You're going to love a floating one.
I wouldn't envy I wouldn't envy anything that they do in Russia. Really, they have so many
But in
issues.
contrast, this is what's happened to the Canadian economy. Brookfield makes a deal to build nuclear generators for the United States, Canadian company that moved to the United States. Mark Carney moved them there. Brookfield bids on BC Hydro Dam. Remember that story? We did that about a week or two ago to supply electricity to the United States of America. A U.S. oil firm buys that BC refinery there on the Lower Mainland.
Sounds good.
And then, but what we did, the Liberals handed $10 billion to Stellantis with no job guarantees and called it an investment. I was going to play that clip, but we're getting a little long in the tooth here, but we got a few things to get through. But here's a chart here. ChatGPT's, this is kind of like a chart showing the impact on job openings, and this is where our youth, and you go back one there. I don't know if we can get that. Did we have it? The one just before that? No? Yeah, maybe. There you go. There's ChatGPT, and there's job openings.
What does the black line represent there?
S&P 500.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. I didn't realize it was color coded. Okay, so as they've grown as their stock price has grown.
Well, OpenAI is not publicly traded, but the stocks in general, right? Like the AI stocks.
As the tech companies. Yeah. Wow.
And then the PSAC warns that the federal budget could lead to 70,000 job cuts in the public service. That'll be interesting to see if that actually happens, but we shall see. Shall we not? Tomorrow.
Indeed.
We'll break it down for you. We'll probably do a special on it. We'll break down the budget here. This is what's happening in Toronto a lot right now. She fell behind her mortgage. Now she's losing her home. And this is happening more and more and more as these mortgages reset to much higher rates. And this is the Bank of Canada's policy rate forecast from the 6 big banks. They say there's probably another cut coming, and then it's going to flatten out for a bit. And some banks are even calling for increases. But like I said, I believe that if we want to get this economy going, can you put up the next one? If we want to get this economy going, we're going to have to cut, like a drastic cut. Like we need this, you know what I mean? Like, you know, when you do the defibrillator on a heart, this system needs a shock. And
the one's not coming. I mean, if reading between the lines in the last announcement, I don't think they're going to move.
And then this is, again, this James Thorne guy. He's an economist, as he's saying, let's try this again. 6 months of negative GDP growth is a recession, folks. There you go. And he's also saying, let's get the rate down. And here's another one from Money Talks, what they have to say about Mark Carney, that he's running out of time. Well, the capital markets are already showing what they're doing. Let's listen to this.
If Carney does not deliver, the global capital markets have had it with us. I can't say that strongly enough.
And yet I can't think of
the heck out of Canada if Carney does not come through in the next 3 weeks.
Well, I'd say that, sorry, just one little aside because it drives me crazy, is I can't find anybody in the political commentariat who understands that, or at least maybe they do and they never mention it. They don't know we're operating in a global capital market. They don't know that we're in competition, to borrow money and all the things you've just alluded to. But as I say, that's just my little pet peeve there.
Capital is fleeing Canada. I mean, it's obvious. Brookfield, one of them. Brookfield just did a big deal in the United States. They didn't do it here. Tech is being bought out. And then here's this other one that's kind of got buried. Nobody even talks about it anymore. Where is this at? Where is those documents? Have you seen them? What's going on? Where are we at?
Gilbo looks very lost in that photograph, doesn't he?
This is that green slush fund. This is one of the reasons they prorogued government in the first place. What's going on with it? That was from the Sustainable Development Technology Canada, a federal agency that channels grants and funding. Where are the documents? governments resisted full public release of all the documents in unredacted, citing confidentiality, privacy, or commercial sensitivity. Like what? Like what?
But the Tories don't even talk about it anymore. It's kind of
there's so many
fallen
things
off a cliff, hasn't it?
So many things on the go, I guess. You just like, which pot's boiling over? And then I was going to put this, I mean, we can just play this real quick. The price of beef in the United States is quite a bit cheaper than Canada for some strange reason. Canada is just absolutely crazy. Anyway, that's good. Like, again, people, I see them at the meat counter. They're just staring at and it's like in shock and disbelief.
Yeah, it is outrageous, isn't it? I must say.
So did the Burns family just chow down on 4 big ribeyes for Halloween?
Tofu, tofu and spinach.
Tofu colored.
Although
like
spinach,
meat.
actually, I take that back. Spinach is a bit out of my league, I think.
And this is just a couple of scraps in here. Carney advised to push back against Trump. In April call, federal officials advised Carney to push back against Trump when he mentioned border security, fentanyl smuggling, and Canada's defense budget. A newly released memo shows Carney was told to tell Trump, drugs, guns, and migrants flowing north present serious problems for Canada. Okay. Apparently, there's a BC forestry summit called as industries being hammered by U.S. fees. Ottawa's Canada-U.S. trade representative, meanwhile, is set to meet with BC Premier David Eby. I mean, our forestry has been in shambles way prior to Trump. Like, we made it so vulnerable. That's what I mean. A lot of the stuff that's in trouble here in Canada has been made vulnerable by the Liberal policies of the past 10 years. Like, we're at their mercy. And then majority of Indian student applications rejected amid clampdown on fraud. The vast majority of Indian study permits were being rejected in August of this year. According to newly released data in 2023, only 32% of Indian applications were rejected. The change comes amid efforts from the governing Liberals to assert control over Canada's immigration system, which was expanded to allow unprecedented numbers of people in the country under none other than Justin Trudeau, which we'll have later in the show here. I mean, it's amazing. Justin's going to make an appearance for us.
Save the best for last.
And this is the part, this blows me away. Canada signs defense pact with Philippines in bid to defer China's aggression. Like what? What does that mean?
Oh, we were talking about it earlier, weren't we? This is like the Philippines are they're on the front line of this conflict with China. All of it relates to the seas. China claims the East China Sea and the South China Sea basically in their entirety, even though, you know, the Philippines and all the rest of the countries, they have their own ideas of where the sea border should be drawn. And I mean, the idea, I guess, is Canada's going to come and save the day. Send in a few patrol boats or something.
Maybe they'll send our one operational sub, according to this guy who's like comments lots on Canadian military, that we have only one operational sub, diesel. It's almost 40 years old. We know that. We know that it was bought secondhand. And the only reason this one works is it was ran aground and took 14 years to rebuild. Like, who was rebuilding? A couple of guys in their back in the garage? We have a big coastline. So if we started now, how long would it take us to get to the Philippines with this sub?
God knows. Depends if you could recruit some dolphins to help you drag it.
Maybe we could get SpaceX to put it in its cargo bay, and it can get something from Florida to Australia. I think it's 30 minutes from blast off to touchdown. That's pretty impressive.
That'd be it then.
So the Blue Jays lost, and you know they put out a valiant effort for sure. They lost in extra innings and basically lost in overtime. How you look at it, Game 7, and I think a lot can be said about. We can break down the game, but that's not what we're here for. But you would think the city of, we'll go back one. You'd think, because we got a clip to play. You'd think the city of Toronto would have been ready for the transit, though, eh? Let's play this clip.
12:30 is the cutoff. for the 1 o'clock train. Don't bullshit people. Say 1 o'clock's the last one. It's not 1 o'clock, and that's the last one. That's bullshit. Bullshit. I call you bullshit.
They said it was open 24 hours.
You guys are full of shit.
They said it was open 24 hours to the open.
Fuck you, Anna.
That's good. So obviously this is blowing up all over X. They didn't extend the hours for the transit. Why would they?
I feel sorry for that dude just taking all that abuse.
But I'm sure Olivia Chow was out there dancing. Her and Doug Ford were out there dancing like crazy, and they didn't have time to make sure people in Toronto got home.
That's because they don't understand what it is to use public transport, because they just have, it's like, well, why don't you just call your driver? Where's your chauffeur? That's all you got to do, silly peasant.
Somebody said not nice. Not nice. Yeah, not nice. But then a lot of people out there, this is all over the internet too, that Mark Carney is the Carney curse. 3-0 in 8 months. He was Game 7 for the Oilers. He went there.
Yeah.
He went to the dugout there for the Blue Jays. And then he also was, fortuitously was in England there for the Female World Cup there too.
Yeah. What's next? Obviously, he's going to be going, presuming that there isn't an election and he's dethroned, he's going to be going to the football or soccer World Cup as well, isn't he? When those games are on. So I guess he's going to watch Canada lose in that.
Maybe he should put on their jersey.
That's the next one. He loves sport, doesn't he, by the way? Like that press conference that we were on about, he talked at length about the Blue Jays. He's kind of like a sport obsessive, isn't he?
Yeah,
and he's trying, obviously, to tap into...
He uses it to be a populist, though, right? And a distraction.
He's trying to tap into the average dude, isn't he? He's trying to, say, I care about sports.
But it also softens the reporters, because they're just like, yes, yes, yes. Who cares about trade? Who cares about the economy? As long as, This one is like a horrible arrest here in Toronto where the cops kind of lost control of themselves. Look at this here. We'll play this clip here. You can take the sound off. Take the sound off. So the cop actually jumps out of the vehicle, leaves it in gear, and the car actually drives over the guy. And then this guy goes to get in, and instead of reversing it, he floors the gas and runs over the guy, and plus the police officer. And then he backs over the guy again, just like, oh yeah.
Oh, God. That looks like a lawsuit impending.
You know what I mean? First guy, he jumps out of the car, leaves it running, it rolls over the guy. And then the other guy gets in and hits the gas instead of the, reverse. Oh, man. And then, oh, man. I'm not playing that again, but anyway. BC News.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
BC First Nations member vote in favor of treaty moving towards self-governance. Well, I mean, we don't have a functioning government here by the looks of it anyway, so why not?
Yeah, I mean, this is what really successful countries do, isn't it? They create new independent territories within their national jurisdiction consisting of 825 people and let them make laws for themselves. That's what a successful country has always done, if you read your history.
And if they keep doing what they're doing and they don't announce a pipeline, they're probably going to get a big one right in the middle of Canada. Dan Elvis. This is I've interviewed Chase Barber. I think it was a couple times, and we have Now Media's interviewed him several times. And he's he's got those electric diesel logging trucks, and he was trying to deliver one here. And his slogan is it's Edison Motors stealing Tesla's ideas. That's his slogan, right? Edison Motors stealing Tesla's ideas. Anyway, he went to deliver a truck to Wabcanoes, Manitoba, and he got stuck at the Saskatchewan border because he couldn't get a permit. Listen to what Chase has to say here.
Well, so he screwed up. Turns out Manitoba doesn't issue permits on weekends, so we are not legally able to enter Manitoba. So I guess I'm spending all day Sunday stuck in Moosomin, Saskatchewan on the border. I don't know what there is to do in Moosomin. But we got all excited. We were like, yeah, we're delivering this truck. Let's get going. Let's leave. We leave on Saturday, and we're like, we should probably get a permit. Yeah, they're closed. So now, I don't know what to do.
Anyway, there's some funnier parts in this, but we won't play it. The point is, though, like, why can't he just have a permit that goes across Canada, though, too? Like, I mean, we can't even get a permit so he can drive a truck from one side of Canada to the other. And that's the.
But again, I feel like that's like experts versus the masses. Like the masses, the ordinary, but like the bulk of the population would obviously get that right, wouldn't they? And they would know what to do. But the small group of people that set themselves up as our masters, our wise masters, have created this situation instead.
Let's have some international news, and we're almost done here, but we got some good stuff.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
This is, well, we're going to play it, and then we'll talk about it.
With Trump. If you are one of the people like him who took advantage of young girls with Jeffrey Epstein, then we're going to sort of make that go away. I mean, fundamentally, Speaker Johnson...
We don't have evidence that he took advantage of young girls with Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. Just common sense be damned.
I'm not saying common sense be damned. I'm saying facts. Let's look at the facts. Is he in the Epstein files?
He's obviously in the Epstein files, and the reason that fundamentally Speaker Johnson has us on vacation is because he does not want to seat the newly elected Democratic representative.
Right, but you said
from
he
Arizona.
took advantage of young girls. You have absolutely no evidence of that.
I think it's pretty obvious that that's what's going on.
You think it's pretty obvious?
I do. And I think it's pretty obvious to the Republican.
John Lemire, any reporting on this?
Well, we know that he's friends with Epstein. We know the birthday card was in there. I mean, he has not been accused of any wrongdoing. I mean, I think that's the point you're trying to make. But also, certainly here, that we know that Speaker.
That was funny, wasn't it? I think what they were doing there was they were imagining the defamation lawsuit.
That's what I mean.
And they
Morning
wanted to make
Joe
sure
is
that
just
the
like
transcript read nicely.
MSNBC can't afford any more lawsuits, so it's just like... And then, remember cheap fakes? You remember cheap fakes? Remember that? Biden? Let's listen to where cheap fakes came from. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre, a cheap fake for a press officer here.
Use the term cheap fakes. Was that choice of words in the moment, or was that something that had been prepared ahead of time as a talking point?
It was prepared.
Did you or did anyone ever verify if the videos you were talking about were, in fact, cheap fakes?
I believe so.
What is a cheap fake? I really don't know.
It was something that we did not coin. It was something that the media coined. They did the work. They did the legwork on coming up with that terminology, and so we were just elevating essentially what the media was saying, what the press was saying.
But do you know what it is?
I mean, it basically is laid out with how you defined it with what President Biden was actually doing, and
that's good enough. She tells you right there, the media working hand in glove with the Biden administration, and I would say here in Canada they have the same arrangement going on. They help out where it's needed. Cheap fakes, remember? They would say cheap fake. She would say it, stand at the podium and call it a cheap fake. When then Fox was accused of it a lot, and they said, this is the whole video. Where's the cheap fake part? It's a cheap fake. They would just scream at you, cheap fake, when clearly the whole video was right there for you to see. But again, you were to doubt your own common sense.
And then, you get like Associated Press and MSNBC and all New York Times, all of these news organizations that are broadly Democratic, favorable to the Democratic Party. They would all come out and then do fact check. And it was like, is this real? And it's like out of context and misrepresents reality and things like that. So they kind of came in to make that seem like it was actually a plausible view.
Well, they just screamed at you, right? And here's another one. Gavin Newsom actually comes out and recognizes that he hates himself. Listen to this.
And the politician that sits there and lies to you. And we all just sit there rolling our eyes going, give me a break.
Did you legitimately believe that he was capable of serving as president until January of 2029?
Yeah, I think my focus was frankly situational. It was making sure Donald Trump didn't get back into office to experience everything that we're experiencing today. And there was no interaction I had that suggested otherwise.
What do you say to Americans who feel misled by you and other top
misled in what
Democrats
respect? He decided to step
about the
down.
mental acuity of President Biden, that they wish you'd sounded the alarm sooner to give way for
I never
an
experienced.
open
Look,
convention?
I'm not going to substitute myself for someone else or for popular opinion. I'm going to express my relationship to my truth with the former president of the United States, including at the end of his term, quite literally, in December, which was a masterclass of foreign policy and domestic policy, which I will never forget as we walk through not just the election, but we're walking through the world we're living in. There was nothing to suggest what you just said or others have suggested in terms of my interaction. That's all I can be accountable for.
Couple of big points there. He doesn't like politicians that lie, so there you go. And then the other one is his truth, his version of the truth. That's pretty much bang on right there. His version of the truth.
Yeah. And also that
Not the
Biden's,
truth,
what was
but
that? His last days in office were a mass class of foreign and domestic policy.
I don't remember any of that.
What are you on about? I'm also fascinated by his hairdo. Like, he's got that classic sort. It's almost like 1980s, isn't it? Like the executive hairdo.
You know
Where
what?
do you go to get hair like that?
If you were on a car lot, honest Al's car lot, and this guy walked up to you, grab your wallet and run. Because this guy's going to help you part with your money for sure.
But he is, I mean, he's been exposed numerous times as being deceitful, and he was an adulterer, I believe, when he was the mayor of San Francisco or something like that.
During the COVID lockdown, he was at that big fancy diner with all his buddies there while everybody else is locked in their hovels. And he was at some big restaurant, and he said, well, I mean, those rules are not for me. Come on now. Let's be serious.
Or anyone else in the Democratic Party and lots of the Republican Party
At least
as well.
Jason Kenney had the class to do his parties on the rooftop where not a lot of people could find them.
Yeah.
Pete Hegseth, this is a Donald Trump truth that was put out, his version of the truth. Nigerian government continues to allow the kid. I mean, there's been a lot of press on this, not on the CBC website though, but of these killings in Nigeria. And then I was going to ask.
It's been going on for a very long time. This.
I think I asked you: is the Americans getting ready for the English version of the Crusades? And here's this clip here from Tommy Robinson from the UK retweeted this clip here from Pete Hegseth there. It sounds a lot like King Richard riling up the troops.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
It's been a very long time, I have to admit. A very, very long time since I heard or read the Lord's Prayer in the context of the military or militarism. That's fascinating, isn't it? I hadn't seen that. Very, very interesting. Because that obviously in the old days they used to recite that. That's the certainly in the British Empire and the British Army, they'd recite that like before they went over the top in the First World War and things like that. Or when they were fighting Napoleon.
Back to King Richard for the Crusades. He would have read that out before he would have filled the boats.
Well, I don't know what. I'm not sure what version they would have. Yeah, I don't know. I guess so. I'm not sure, but I mean that one that he read there, that's from like the 16th century, 17th century. But it's in the It's in Matthew, isn't it? It's in the Bible. It's from the Sermon on the Mount, I think.
Yeah. Anything. Well, one thing for sure, when you look at some of the American stuff, when they show off their military, like Venezuela and them, they have to take notice, because I mean, it's not like one diesel sub that doesn't run.
Yeah,
Anyway.
they've sent some serious kit into the Caribbean, haven't they? Which is extremely rare.
Yeah.
Trump's saying it's not going to happen. I guess maybe we should read that as it is going to happen. I don't know. But yeah, definitely want to watch that.
I'd like to show a little bit of tech, and here's some Tesla semis going mainstream. The diesel era is over, and I was going to play this clip here, but Tesla is supposedly ready to start manufacturing these trucks, these electric trucks that Bill Gates he got a tour of Elon's factory there, and he said they just don't work. And Elon's like, they're actually working. Bill Gates said the math doesn't work. Elon said they're actually working. You can send out your best engineer, and I can show you they work. And Bill Gates refuses to believe that. Anyway, here's a little clip here from, I don't know these DJs. I don't follow DJs. DJ Diplo. But anyway, listen to this clip here. This is a TMZ interview, I believe.
But that place is just a horny place. That's where Pornhub. It's just a very porny city. Montreal.
Canada, porny. They have a hot prime
Quebec
minister
in general.
now.
And now Katy Perry's dating Justin Trudeau.
I know. Fuck.
Pretty fire.
I know so many people who kind of
Dated Katy Perry, like me.
Oh, did you date Katy Perry?
I did.
I meant Trudeau.
Oh, I did date Trudeau too.
Yeah. That's gonna go.
That was a weird one though.
Really? Why?
Because I'm just not.
He's a prude,
I'm not into politicians.
I call him Prudo. Yeah.
You met him before?
No, I haven't. I think he's hot.
There you go.
Such gross people. I'm sorry to say. That was just repulsive. It's like, if they were at a bus stop with you, you would walk away from them, wouldn't you?
Here's your countryman. Poor Prince Harry there. The people, a lot of saying this is from the New York Post. A lot of people saying that this is fake. This is after the LA Dodgers won the World Series. And King Charles here, the head of state of Canada here. This is his son, Prince Harry there. As Meghan celebrates the Dodgers, and Harry is kind of subdued in his celebration. Let's play this. It's what? Doesn't work? Well, maybe they pulled it down already. I don't know. But anyway, Meghan and her friend there jump around, and Prince Harry's just like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. Why am I here? Can't find
I'm just
it?
looking at the still, and I can see him there, his little home theater. Crazy, isn't it, really? The life he's living.
Can you go to the New York Post there and see? Yeah, he's got an actual projector there in his. Oh, there's no video. He looks pretty sad in both photos, though, eh?
I mean, he's kind of sad all the time, isn't he? Because he had one purpose in life, and he just completely set fire to it, cut it to pieces.
Yoko Ono helped there. Oh, sorry, Meghan Markle.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, she's many things you could say about her and how awful she is, but really, you need to, as the man in that situation, you obviously need to be down for it. You needed his consent. And I think more than that, he actively sought that out, didn't he? That sort of rebellious life.
Apparently. That's it. That's our show for today. A little bit longer, but lots going on with that budget. So, Mark Carney's press conference, the budget tomorrow. I'm sure a little bit of it will leak out today. CBC will get some leaks for sure, right? And then because they're going to try and sell it as hard as they can. You know, they'll be pitching this budget.
Well, they're already doing that, aren't they? This generational budget.
Yeah, they haven't even changed their website yet, so there you go. Carney signals he's ready to fight.
You can go there if you're on the other side, let's say, or you're neutral. You can go to the CBC to find out what the Liberal line is. It's useful in that regard. You can use it like the same way in America. You go to Fox to find out what the Republican line is on something.
Yeah.
Just go to CBC. Like that's, and it's it's about 100% success rate.
Yeah, somebody on X there put out a tweet showing his engagement on X is like 5 times out of CBC's. It was just crazy. Anyway.
Sorry, whose?
Some guy, I can't remember who it was now.
All right. Yeah, that's well, they don't often they'll actually get a good story, that rarest of rare things. They will sometimes actually write a good story and they don't even put it on X. And you have to go to some like CBC watcher or something, some like random account. That's if you want to find it on Twitter. Like they're pretty bad on Twitter.
Well, that's our show for today. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate if you'd share it and help us reach more people. We're a local independent media outlet, so thank you. And we're back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.